and welcome to GooseDrunks. Ooh. If this isn't your first rodeo, you may recall we only have a couple really simple rules because I'm not going to be able to remember more than that. First rule is we drink when it's stupid. The second rule is we drink when it's scary. That's it. It's super easy. Today, we're going to be reading Say Cheese and Die. In the Goosebumps TV show, this episode starred Ryan Gosling.
Hey, troll.
Don't call me that.
Oh, okay. What do you think of Dad's new ride?
It's excellent.
In that same thought process, we are going to be drinking a hot Gosling. It looks disgusting, but it does not taste disgusting. If you want to learn how to make a hot Gosling, you can donate to Patreon, because that is going to be an exclusive feature over there. Yum. Basically, it's a dirty, spicy martini with some blue cheese olives for the cheese part. Yum. Let's get started. I'm super excited. As you guys can see, this is kind of a haphazard set. Yep. This is very temporary. Next time, it's going to be a real cool, though. Trust me. Now, how do I sit comfortably? Oh, no. Another side note, I have a sore throat and a cough. This is going to be really fun to get through. Now, this is the very first Goosebumps book, but don't be fooled. It's just like any other. In fact, possibly more so. Per Goosebumps tradition, it starts with dialogue. I would be incredibly surprised if I ever open one of these and it doesn't start with dialogue. Like, I would drink an entire bottle of vodka right in front of you guys if I found... No, I'm not going to promise to do that. I would throw up. Michael Warner says that there is nothing to do in Pitt's Landing. And then Greg Banks, I don't know why we're getting these people's full names, but here we are. Greg Banks says, very cleverly, that Pitt's Landing is the pits. Good one, Greg. And then Doug Arthur and Sherry Walker muttered their agreements. So we've got a real gang of kids here. So they're like making fun of how it's boring and stuff, but RL wants to give us an aside to let us know that it's pretty much like all other small towns. So they're right, it is the pits, RL. It's a balmy fall afternoon, as it typically is in Goosebumps. And the four friends are hanging around Greg's driveway. And they're described as Greg and his three friends. So I'm going to take a guess here and say Greg is the main character. So Doug suggests they go to the comic book store to see if any new comics have come in. Greg's like, we don't have any money. What are you talking about? We're children. So, all right, they all call their friend Doug Bird. That's what this is establishing because he looks like a bird. And they also say that Doug doesn't really like being called Bird. And so Bird's like, well, we could go and we could just look at the comics. And Sherry's like, okay, but the owner will yell at us to like buy one or leave, which is fair. It's a store, not a library, you guys. So the four of them have been best friends for like a really long time and they're all neighbors with each other. Michael suggests they go play baseball. Sherry's like, you can't play with only 4 people because she has no imagination. She pushed back a strand of her crimped black hair that had fallen over her face.
We're crimping her hair like a cool teen would because we're going to the mall and we gotta look good.
The 90s. Greg is apparently both our main character and the natural athlete of the group. He is blonde and good-looking with flashing gray-green eyes and a wide, friendly smile. And Greg's like, I was supposed to play baseball for school, but my brother Terry forgot to sign me up. And then Sherry is like, I have a crush on Terry, and if we get married, it'll be really cute and rhyme and stuff. She didn't say that part, but I was thinking it. So they go for a walk through the neighborhood. So they're walking around, and then they walk past this, like, very badly maintained lawn. At the top of the lawn, nearly hidden in the shadows of enormous old oak trees, sprawled a large, ramshackle house. The house, anyone could see, had once been grand. It was gray shingled, 3 stories tall, with a wraparound screened porch, a sloping red roof, and tall chimneys on either end. But the broken windows on the second floor, the cracked, weather-stained shingles, the bare spots on the roof, and the shutters hanging loosely beside the dust-smeared windows were evidence of the house's neglect. Everyone in Pitt's Landing knew it as the Coffin house. Coffin was the name painted on the mailbox that tilted on its broken pole over the front walk, but the house had been deserted for years. Dun dun dun. No, sorry, that's not the end of the chapter. It's just very spooky, so I am going to drink. It's our first one. Hi, baby. Don't step on the audio, please. Please don't step on the audio. So, of course, you know, with any abandoned house that just happens to be in your small town, there's going to be some creepy ghost stories about it. And there are. Tales about murders and other ghastly things, according to this. And then Michael's like, hey, I know what we can do for some excitement. Let's go into the Kaufman house. And he just starts. He doesn't even wait for them to say, yeah, he just goes. And I respect that initiative, you know? He's got a take charge kind of attitude, and I like it. Michael can be Southern. I've decided. "Let's go in," Michael said, his blue eyes catching the light of the late afternoon sun filtering down through the tall oak trees. Evocative. "We wanted an adventure. Something a little exciting, right? Come on, let's check it out." Greg hesitated and stared up at the house. A cold chill ran down his back. Before he could reply, a dark form leaped up from the shadows of the tall weeds and attacked him. Oh no! Dun dun dun! I can't believe our main character died in the first chapter. That's buck wild. "Oh, it's this dumb Cocker Spaniel that lives next door to Greg. It followed them. Aw, an animal to put in danger. I love it. You guys know how much I love that." So they shoo him away, and the dog doesn't go anywhere. All his friends are peer pressuring him to go, and Greg's like, it's really creepy, and he feels very uncomfortable being the sensible one in the group, and I get that, Greg, I really do. And then everyone starts calling him chicken and clucking and stuff. And Cherry's like, "Look, the window next to the front door is broken. We can just reach in and open the door." "This is cool," Michael said enthusiastically. "Are we really doing this?" Greg, being the sensible one, had to ask. "What about Spidey?" Spidey was a weird-looking man of 50 or 60 they'd all seen lurking about town. He dressed entirely in black and crept along on long, slender legs. He looked just like a black spider, so the kids all called him Spidey. Most likely, he was homeless or a drifter. Very sensitively done, RL. Very nice. So no one really knows where this guy lives, but a lot of them had seen him hanging around the Coffin house, so they kind of assumed that he hung out there. In spite of this, Sherry was already reaching in to unlock the door through the window, just like she said she would. So in this, bare living room with nothing but some, grocery cartons against one wall, whatever that means. Suddenly, a loud crack made them all jump. "What was that?" Greg cried, unable to stifle his fear. "Old houses do things like that," Sherry said. "They make noises for no reason at all." So they bump into Michael, and they're like, "Where's Bird at?" And he's like, "Oh, I think he went down to the basement." And Michael's like, "Yeah, the stairs are there, let's go." From somewhere deep in the basement, his voice floated up to them in a horrified scream. "Help! It's got me! Somebody please help! It's got me! Ah!" I'm really gonna need to figure out a voice for Bird. Maybe Bad Scottish. Let's do Bad Scottish for Bird. Anyway, dun dun dun. And Greg, flies down the stairway. He's like, "I'm coming. What is it? What could it be?" And they get down there, and Bird is just sitting comfortably, calmly on an overturned metal trash can, his legs crossed, a broad smile on his bird-like face. "Gotcha," he said softly, and burst out laughing. "Another dumb joke?" Michael asked, his voice still trembling with fear. "Bird, were you goofing on us again?" said Sherry, obviously, but "were you goofing on us again?" What a lovely turn of phrase. I love it. Bird nodded with his peculiar half grin. "You guys are too easy," he scoffed. "But Doug," Sherry started. She only called him Doug when she was upset with him. "Haven't you ever heard of the boy who cried wolf? What if something bad happens sometime? You really need help, and we think you're just goofing." "What could happen?" Bird replied smugly, jinxing it. "Look, it's brighter down here than upstairs." Bird's accent is just whatever it is. Whatever comes out of my mouth is what Bird's accent is. I'm so glad RL later decided that 3 friends is overwhelming and only 2 is necessary. Has that been in frame this whole time? Oh, jeez. Behind the overturned trash can that he was sitting on stood an improvised table made out of a sheet of plywood resting on 4 paint cans. A nearby flat mattress, dirty and stained, rests against the wall, a faded wool blanket folded at the foot. Get out of there. Sherry opens a towering oak wardrobe. "Wow, this is excellent," she declared. "Look!" She pulled out a ratty-looking fur coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "Girl, take that off." So they start pulling out all the clothes from the wardrobe and, trying them on and stuff. Presumably, throwing them on the bed and spinning in a circle and, Greg, the voice of reason, is like, "I think those might, belong to someone. Maybe we shouldn't, play around with them. I don't know." And then Sherry turns around and shows off this, bright purple wide-brimmed hat. And Michael is examining a long blue cape, and he's like, "This stuff must be at least 25 years old. It's awesome. How could someone just leave it here?" "Maybe they're coming back for it," Greg suggested. So his friends continue to be jerks and try on clothes that don't belong to them. And also gross. You guys, don't do this. If you find dusty, weird clothes that are 25 years old, wash them first. That's how you get bugs on your body. So while his friends are doing this, Greg wanders to the other end of the basement. A furnace occupied the far wall, its ducts covered in thick cobwebs. Partially hidden by the furnace ducts, Greg could see stairs, probably leading to an outside exit. Wooden shelves lined the adjoining wall, cluttered with old paint cans, rags, newspapers, and rusty tools. Just a heads up, you guys, because I am so sick and this cough is so bad. I'm only going to be doing half today. I do not want to, but I do want to put another video out. And the cough is just wrecking my night. Like, I'm so sorry. It's worse than I thought it was when I started, but I'm all set up now. So I'm just going to get to the halfway point and then get back to it from the new set. So Greg turns the handle on the vise, expecting the jaws to open because, that's what happens. But to his surprise, as he turned the vice handle, a door just above the work table popped open. Ooh. Greg pulled the door all the way open, revealing a hidden cabinet shelf. Resting on the shelf was a camera. Dun, dun, dun! Camera! For a long moment, Greg just stared at the camera. Something told him the camera was hidden away for a reason. Something told him he shouldn't touch it. He should close the secret door and walk away. But he couldn't resist. Who could? See, these are protagonist actions I can, get behind, I understand. This kid's just normal and bored and found a camera in a house that's on a creepy hidden shelf, which, duh, you take that camera. It pulled out easily. Then, to Greg's surprise, the door instantly snapped shut with a loud bang. Ah! So he turns the camera over in his hands and he's examining it. It was large and surprisingly heavy with a long lens. Perhaps a telephoto lens, he thought. Greg was very interested in cameras, so this is a super convenient find for him. He had an inexpensive automatic camera, which took okay snapshots. But he was saving his allowance in hopes of buying a really good camera with lots of lenses. Greg, I know it's the 90s, but you might be saving for a while there, bud. Raising the viewfinder to his eye, he sighted around the room. He came to a stop on Michael, who was wearing 2 bright yellow feather boas and a white Stetson hat, and had climbed to the top of the steps to pose. Wait, hold it, Greg cried, moving closer, raising the camera to his eye. Let me take your picture, Michael. Where'd you find that? Bert asked. Does that thing have film in it? Michael demanded. I don't know, Greg said. Let's see. You didn't check? You're the camera enthusiast. So Michael strikes a pose, and Greg's like, say cheese. Greg centered Michael in the viewfinder frame, then pressed the shutter button. The camera clicked and flashed, then it made an electronic whirring sound. A slot pulled open on the bottom, and a cardboard square slid out. Hey, it's one of those automatic developing cameras, Greg exclaimed, because RL didn't have permission to use the Polaroid brand. Let me see, Michael called down, leaning on the railing, but before he could start down the stairs, everyone heard a loud crunching sound. They all looked up to the source of the sound, and saw the railing break away and Michael go sailing over the edge. No! Michael screamed as he toppled to the floor, arms outstretched, the feather boas flying behind him like animal tails. He hits the ground and bounces, then cries out, My ankle! Ow! My ankle! So they all rushed to their injured friend, of course. But then they heard the ceiling creak. Footsteps above them. Someone was in the house. Someone was approaching the basement stairs. They were going to be caught. Dun dun dun! They're all like, we've got to go now. Michael uses Sherry and Bird as, crutches. They start toward the stairway behind the furnace that Greg had seen earlier. So they get to the door, and they're like, oh my gosh, please be open, no padlock, no padlock. And then an angry man's voice is like, hey, who's down there? So Greg sets the camera down and goes to open the door, and takes a deep breath and pushes with all his strength. And the doors didn't budge. We're trapped, he said. Dun dun dun. So chapter 6, Bird's like, try again. Maybe the door's just stuck. And they both push, and then the door opens. It was just stuck. He was right. So everyone scrambles out of the house, and they make it all the way down to the sidewalk. They're scared and out of breath, and then Greg's like, look, and he points up toward the living room window. A dark figure stood in the window, hands pressed against the glass. It's Spidey, Sherry said. He's just staring at us, Michael cried. Weird, Greg said. Let's go. And so they skedaddle out of there. What's he gonna do? Chase after them? He could. He didn't, though. So they run until they get to Michael's house. And Greg's like, how's your ankle? And Michael's like, oh, it doesn't even hurt that much anymore. And then Bird's like, you could have been killed. Luckily, you've got all that extra padding. And Michael's like, shut up, because what a hurtful thing to say to your friend. Are we supposed to find that endearing? It's lucky you're so fat or you would have died. That's not helpful. RL has a real fat phobia problem. And I calls him like I sees him, sorry. And then they're talking about how Spidey saw them. And Greg's like, he saw us very clearly. We had better stay away from there from now on. Michael's like, I don't see why. It's not his house. He's just sleeping there. Spotter's rights, my dude. Michael was leaning over, rubbing his ankle. Hey, where's my picture? He demanded, straightening up and turning to Greg. Oh, right. Greg suddenly realized he still had the camera gripped tightly in his hand. It's a weird thing to forget about. It's a heavy camera, but okay. Well, did it come out? Michael demanded. The three of them huddled around Greg to get a view of the snapshot. Whoa, hold on a minute, Greg cried, staring hard at the small square photo. Something's wrong. What's going on here? Dun dun dun. Okay, this is spooky though. Apparently, the camera had caught Michael in midair as he fell through the broken railing to the floor. But that's impossible, Sherry cried. You snapped the picture before I fell, Michael declared, grabbing the photo out of Greg's hand so he could study it close up. I remember. You remembered wrong, Brad said, moving to get another look at it over Michael's shoulder. He picked up the camera. This is a good camera you stole, Greg. I didn't steal it, Greg started. I didn't realize. You stole it, my dude. I wasn't falling, Michael insisted, tilting the picture in his hand, studying it from every angle. I was posing, remember? I had a big goofy smile on my face, and I was posing. I remember the goofy smile, Bird said, handing the camera back to Greg. Do you have any other expressions? You're not funny, Bird, Michael muttered. I don't think they're friends, really. Weird, Greg said. He glanced at his watch. Hey, I've got to get going. He said goodbye to the others and headed for home. See, he had promised his mother he'd straighten up his room and help with the vacuuming before dinner. And now he was late. Oh no, what a good kid. And then there's like a new car in the driveway. It is a navy blue Taurus station wagon. I don't know enough about cars to know whether or not Taurus is a real kind of car, but I feel like it's not. So apparently Dad had picked up the new car and still got like a sticker on the window and everything. And then like a weirdly long amount of time is devoted to Greg smelling the car. And then he does something even weirder than that. He says, I've got to take a picture of this to remember what the car was like when it was totally new. He backed up until he had framed the entire profile of the station wagon in the viewfinder. Then he pressed the shutter button. As before, the camera clicked loudly. The flash flashed, and with an electronic whir, a square of undeveloped photo of gray and yellow slid out of the bottom. So Greg takes his camera and the picture that hasn't developed yet into the house, and he's like, I'm home, down in a minute, blah, blah, blah. He's like, okay, gonna hide the camera so that Mom and Dad don't ask questions if they see it. It's a good thought. He's like looking for a good hiding spot for kind of a while, and then remembers the secret compartment in his headboard. Wow, it's weird that didn't occur to him first, a literal hiding spot. So he puts the camera in there, obviously. He brushes his hair real quick, makes himself presentable for dinner, and then stopped at the doorway to see the snapshot of the car. Oh no, he uttered a low cry as he gazed at the snapshot. Dun dun dun. I think that Tabasco's actually helping the cough a little, but I don't want to jinx it. This isn't right, he thought. How can this be? The blue Taurus station wagon in the photo was a mess. It looked as if it had been in a terrible accident. The windshield was shattered. Metal was twisted and bent. The door on the driver's side was caved in. It appeared to be totaled. Greg, where are you? His mother called. You know how moms sound. Sorry, he answered, unable to take his eyes off the snapshot. He shoved the photo into his top dresser drawer and made his way downstairs. The image of the totaled car burned in his mind. He peeked out of the front window to the driveway. There stood the station wagon, sparkling in the glow of the setting sun. He turned and walked into the dining room where his brother and his parents were already seated. After dinner, Greg's dad announced happily, I'm taking you all for a drive in the new car. That's how his dad sounds, and I'm just going to commit to it until I'm done with that. You know how commitments work. I think that was supposed to be a dun 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 because of the whole accident thing. So, I'm going to drink for it. Yeah. 11 drinks come with a snack. So, Greg's brother, Terry, compliments the chicken that Mom made. These kids are such suck-ups. I love them. Terry works at the dairy freeze, or should I say the Terry freeze. Ha 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 ha. They eat dinner for a while. And then Greg is like, I don't really think I can go for a ride in the car. And Dad's like, why? And then Greg's like, I have no actual excuse that would work in this situation, actually. Dad asks why, which, like, duh. And Greg spends half a page debating what to say and then says, I made plans to go over to Michael's. And Mr. Banks is like, well, call him and tell him you'll see him tomorrow. And then Greg's like, I'm not feeling well. Same, Greg. And then Mrs. Banks does the mom thing where she's like, do you have a temperature? Are you getting sick? Did you hit your head? Oh man, it was all a dream. I guess that kind of thing could never happen to me. If it was a dream and it wasn't real, how'd I get a jersey with the name O'Neal? And Greg's just like, I'm tired. I'm not that hungry. And then Greg's dad is like, a nice ride might make you feel better. Greg's dad, why is it so important for you to bring Greg along in the car? If my kid was like, I'm actually not feeling that great, I'd be like, yeah, we're gonna have this car for a while. You'll have a chance to ride in it. Ain't no thing. But no, Greg's dad wants to ride, and he wants to ride now with his whole family. It's very stupid. And Greg's like, you know what? I'm just being silly. Fine. And he says, okay, Dad, great. I'll come. And then Terry says, are there any more potatoes? Dun, dun, dun. They're driving the car, and apparently it's very easy to drive, and it spends like a really long time describing how nice the car is. Like, I don't give a shit about real cars, RL. Why am I going to read 2 full pages about a fake car? So Mr. Banks is driving 60, and Mrs. Banks is scolding him like, it's a 55 zone. Like, all right, Mom. I mean, she is the mom, but still. And Greg's mom is like, you've been awfully quiet. Are you feeling okay? He said he wasn't feeling okay back at the house. What do you mean, Mom? Greg's just upset because he wants his dad to slow down and be a responsible driver. Where's that stupid light switch? It's gotta be here somewhere, Mr. Banks said. As he glanced down at the unfamiliar dashboard, the station wagon swerved to the left. Dad, look out for that truck, Greg screamed. Dun, dun, dun. Horns blared. A powerful blast of air swept over the station wagon, like a giant ocean wave pushing it to the side. Evocative. So they swerve back into their lane like they're supposed to, and the dad's like, sorry, and they like slows the car down like he should have been doing this whole time. And they're like, can we please go back now? And Mr. Banks is like, don't you want to keep going? I thought we keep going to Santa Clara and stop and get some ice cream or something. Read the car, my dude. Mrs. Banks basically says exactly what I just said. Enough for tonight. Let's turn around. Later, safe and sound up in his room, Greg took the photograph out of his dresser and examined it. He pulled the camera out of its hiding place and turned it around in his hands. I'll try it one more time, he decided. He walked to his dresser and aimed at the mirror above it. I'll take a picture of myself in the mirror, he thought. Yeah, good. Try to outsmart the demon camera. What a great plan, dude. He raised the camera, then changed his mind. All right. That won't work, he realized. The flash will That won't work, he realized. The flash will reflect back and spoil the photo. Gripping the camera in one hand, he made his way across the hall to Terry. Then, of course, because the selfie hadn't been invented yet, he decides to sacrifice his brother instead. His brother was at his desk, typing away on his computer keyboard. He had a computer in his room in the 90s. Swank. And Greg's like, Terry, can I take your picture? And then Terry's like, where did you get the camera, bud? And then Greg lies and says Sherry loaned it to him, which is a good lie. But he doesn't like to lie because he's a good kid. Played by Ryan Gosling.
He's excellent.
So, can I take your picture? And Terry's like, I'll probably break your camera. And Greg's like, I think it's already broken. That's why I want to test it on you. Terry's like, go ahead. He stuck out his tongue and crossed his eyes. So Greg snaps the shutter. An undeveloped photo slid out of the slot in front. Thanks. See ya. Hey, don't I get to see it? Terry called after him. If it comes out, Greg said and hurried across the hall to his room. Good call, my dude. The problem with doing this with vodka is you get drunker faster. The problem with doing this while you're sick and drinking vodka is you get drunker faster. He sat on the edge of his bed. Holding the photo in his lap, he stared at it intently as it developed. That's a hell of a sentence. Let's look at that again. Holding the photo in his lap, he stared at it intently as it developed. Listen, I'm not RL Stine's editor. He's not paying me to edit his book for him. I'm just saying I would have done something different here. See, okay, I see what he's doing here because he sat down on the edge of the bed. End of sentence. Holding the photo in his lap, he stared at it intently as it developed. So he didn't want to start another sentence with he and then verb, like subject and then verb. I get it. You gotta mix things up. But here's the thing, RL. Here's what you could have done. He sat down on the edge of his bed, holding the photo in his lap and staring at it intently as it developed. There, one sentence, easy peasy, done and done. And that's my advice for grammar. Anyway, the photo develops in front of him. Whoa, Greg muttered as his brother's face came into view. In the photo, Terry's eyes weren't crossed and his tongue wasn't sticking out. His expression was grim and frightened. He looked upset. As the background came into focus, Greg had another surprise. Terry wasn't in his room. He was outdoors. There were trees in the background and a house. Greg stared at the house. It looked so familiar. He took one more look at Terry's frightened expression. Then he tucked the photo and the camera into his secret headboard compartment. I can't even visualize how big this headboard is to have a secret compartment where you could hide an entire old-timey camera. The camera must be broken, he decided, getting changed for bed. It was the best explanation he could come up with. That's fair. I mean, it's kind of hard to jump to the magic conclusion, but I mean, I think here you can make a case. Tuesday afternoon after school, Greg hurried to meet Sherry at the playground to watch Bird's Little League game. Greg crossed the grass and squinted into the bright sunlight, searching for Sherry. Both teams were warming up on the sides of the diamond, yelling and laughing. The sound of balls popping into gloves, competing with their loud voices. How loud is that? It seems like it wouldn't be louder than a child yelling. I never played baseball. I don't understand it, and I don't get it. It's not because I had no talent. It's because I didn't want to. And also, I had no talent. Greg spotted Sherry behind the backstop and waved to her. Did you bring the camera? How do British people sound? He held it up. Excellent, she exclaimed. She reached for it. I think it's broken, Greg said, holding onto the camera. The photos don't come out right. It's hard to explain. And Sherry's like, oh, maybe it's the photographer. And Greg's like, okay, maybe I'll take a photo of you and see what happens. That's a legitimate threat, my dude. Maybe don't. Snap that and I'll take a picture of you eating the camera, Sherry threatened. Playfully. She reached up quickly and pulled the camera from his hand. I want to take Bird's picture when he comes to bat. He looks just like an ostrich at the plate. I heard that. Bird appeared beside them, pretending to be insulted. He might be a little insulted. You guys do nothing but make fun of him. Poor Bird. He goes on to make fun of him some more. He looked ridiculous in his starched white uniform. The shirt was too big and the pants were too short. The cap was the only thing that fit. It was blue with a silver dolphin over the bill and the words, Pitt's Landing Dolphins. What kind of name is Dolphins for a baseball team? We had a choice between the Zephyrs and the Dolphins. None of us knew what Zephyrs were, so we picked Dolphins. Sherry eyed him up and down. Maybe you guys should play in your street clothes. Thanks for the encouragement, Bird replied. He spotted the camera and took it from her. Hey, are you going to share this thing, Greg? He asked. We all risked our lives down in that basement getting it, right? Bird said. We should all share it. Greg hadn't thought about it. I guess you're right, but I'm the one who found it, so I'm going to do this one for me. All the Tabasco settled at the bottom there. It's very good, but normally I drink it faster, so the Tabasco doesn't have that much time to settle. Sherry grabbed the camera out of Bird's hand. I told Greg to bring it so we could take your picture when you're up. Hey, Bird, get back here, one of the coaches called from the playing field. I've got to go, Bird said. No, wait, let me take a fast picture now, Greg said. Bird stopped, turned around, and struck a pose. No, I'll take it, Sherry insisted. She started to raise the camera to her eye, pointing it toward Bird. As she raised it, Greg grabbed for it. Let me take it. And the camera went off, clicked, and then flashed. An undeveloped photo slid out. Hey, why'd you do that? Sherry asked angrily. She pulled the photo out and held it in her hand. Greg and Bird came close to watch it develop. What the heck is that? Bird cried, staring hard at the small square as the colors brightened and took shape. Oh, wow, Greg cried. The photo showed Bird sprawled unconscious on his back on the ground, his mouth twisted open, his neck bent at a frightening angle, his eyes shut tight. Dun, dun, dun. That feels like a good cliffhanger. As I said before, if you want to see me make the cocktail I made, which was very, very good, even if it looked a little off because of the blue cheese, I promise it was delicious. That video will be up on Patreon soon. Check out my Patreon. I'm going to be posting a patron exclusive video, and I'm going to be filming it in the new film space, which is not this. Trust me, it's very cool. I'm so tired and I'm so sick. I hope that Bird doesn't really break his neck. It would be a weird and dark twist for a Goosebumps book for sure. But anyway, I can't talk anymore. I'm super drunk because I just chugged a cup of vodka. All right, everybody, stay spooky out there.